Good morning to everyone. Good morning, everybody. It's Monday. Let's start this day off feeling as good as we can about ourselves, right? Is that okay? Is that okay? We have a nice, bright camera and everything going. It looks wonderful. I even look like the sexy librarian with my glasses on. I am so impressed by how I look. Right? I'm so impressed. Good morning, Sean. How are you? Hey, Periscope. Good morning. Good morning to everyone. Good morning. Good morning. It's Monday. And I usually start off with the weather. And I'm going to tell you right now, Michigan weather sucks major. Yesterday, the weather had the audacity to end the day at about 50, 51 degrees, depending on where you are, right? Which made for a warm day. But as soon as the sun went down, it's still the Midwest, blah, blah, blah. So it still had a little nip to it. Still required a jacket, but not a full-fledged coat. And so I guess we all went to La La Land. This morning I woke up. The weather had the audacity, just the audacity, to be 30 degrees, feeling like 22. Excuse me? So it's really 22 degrees. I was like, forget that stuff. So I had to put on a puffer. And then when I went outside, I was like, Then I went outside and it had a bite. I even needed gloves. I'm like, come on. And I know some people were brave enough. Some folks are very brave. So what they do is they go out and they don't have boots on and they wear a lighter jacket. And then they're trying to be brave. I have learned in the Midwest, don't try to outdo the weather. If it's one thing I've learned here is to respect the weather. I've learned to respect it. Yeah, so I respect it. I mean, it is what it is. It's either going to be cold or it's not going to be cold. See, I'm even wearing a knitted dress. What does that tell you? I'm wearing a knitted dress with a cowl neck because I actually felt kind of nippy. And I was like, I hadn't turned the heat off yet. So the heat is still on. So, you leave it to the thermostat to determine what it should do and so on. So I kind of left the heat on. And I was just, folks, I'm telling you, I am amazed at this weather. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's just, are you having the same issues where you are? I mean, like, what is it like where you are? Because I am convinced that the weather does not like us. I think even Jesus gave up on the weather here in the Midwest. I think Jesus said, man, I can't do anything more. I'm done with this stuff. You all figure that out. You messed with the environment enough. And you don't believe that you messed with it to the extent that you don't believe in climate change. Okay, I'm out of here. You guys figure that one out. Deal with it. I think Jesus turned his back on us because the weather is just freaky. I'm like, it's the 25th of March. It's the Ides of March, isn't it? And I'm like, it's time for us to get weather. It's time for us to get it together and start thinking spring-like. I wanted to go out and, start repotting the plants, the plants, how that works. And I'm like, no, the frost is going to kill them. So I can't do that. I wanted to go out and, clean, start getting the grass ready as a matter of fact, I was even thinking of calling the guy to come and do the grass. But then at the back of my mind, I was like, what if frost happens again? And sure enough, it happened, right? Crazy stuff, isn't it? Just simply crazy. Anyway, so we are going to, we have a lot to talk about this morning. One of the things I wanted to talk about is the story with R. Kelly as it is evolving. And I'm not going to talk about the investigation. After 22 months and $25 million, there's no collusion with Russia, even though you're sending people to jail because they performed treasonous acts. I don't understand that. I don't get that. I don't understand who got paid off. I don't understand who is not going to go to jail, who should go to jail, who got paid off, who got promised what. I don't get that. So I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just going to leave that alone. I don't know where this is going. I don't know what's going on. I give up. So I'm going to talk about what I can talk about without losing my mind. I can talk about what R. Kelly, you're probably going to be shocked what I have to say about that. And I'm going to talk about, it's a Motivation Monday. So we're going to try to motivate ourselves into the next quarter so that what we did not achieve this quarter because time flew away, then we got distracted by our taxes. Yeah. Some people got their taxes back and they thought they were rich. So they went and got crazy for a minute there, right? And then money's run out, right? I forgive me, but I live in the Motor City. And apparently around here, people like motor vehicles more than they like anything else. So around here, when people get their taxes, the first thing they think of buying is a new car. It's not like in other parts of the country where people put their money towards a vacation or they put their money towards home improvement. You know, in some parts of the country, people actually do stuff like that. They put their money towards home improvement. They either go buy something new for their house, fix up their house. Some people even pay down their credit card. Some people pay down their mortgage. Makes them feel better. They sleep better at night, right? Some people put money towards savings. Here in the Motor City, the first thing people do as soon as they get their taxes is they go buy a new car. So every 2 or 3 years, you're buying these new cars that are really just made to last you for 2 years, 2 to 3 years, so they can get your money, right? So it never fails to amaze me. And I'm like, people would rather have a nice car than a home, right? You know, you see people would rather have, you drive past people's homes and you see the big old SUVs out there and you're like, okay, that's it. People just, maybe, I don't know, if here we don't have here in Detroit especially, we don't have all of Metro Detroit. It's not like in New York where you can take the subway or the transit system, the mass transit system is effective. We don't have a mass transit system here. So you have to drive, you have to own a car here. And everywhere you have to go is miles apart. So it's like 5, 7, 8, 10, 12 miles apart, 15 miles away, 20 miles away, right? So you have to have a car because there's no mass transit system, right? So it's designed that way so that the car companies would sell cars. That was how it was structured for a long, long time. And apparently that thinking is still in place, right? And I think we probably need to evolve to the stage where we'll rethink that. Don't you think? I mean, what is it like in your community? I don't know where you live if you have a mass transit system. But here in Detroit, in the absence of a mass transit system, people have to buy cars. The roads are horrible in Michigan. We elected a new governor a few months ago, and she promised to fix the damn roads. That's her slogan, fix the damn roads. I wish she would get cracking because I tell you, I'm about to lose my front end, back end, side end, front, top end, bottom end, and everything. The roads are horrible all over Metro Detroit, no matter where you go. Where were we the other day? I was driving on someplace and I was like, oh my gosh, come on. I mean, anywhere you go in Metro Detroit, the roads are horrible. The best roads are in Grand Rapids. So if you're south of Grand Rapids, screw you. You have no roads. But Grand Rapids and the western part of the state, the roads are like butter. I mean, you can literally just sail on them. But down here in Southeast Michigan, the roads are horrible. So you're constantly, you know, you're driving and you're either losing a wheel lug or people have front end damage or they have side impact. And added to which is the fact that I think people today can't drive. Do you agree? People can't drive. It seems like most people did not learn to drive formally. They just put them behind the wheel of a car and say, drive. And whatever happened, just happened, right? So people can't drive. So there are more side impact damages, there are front end impact damages. It's terrible. It's just terrible. And a lot of it has to do with the conditions of the roads. The roads are awful. So I'm like, am I going to lose my engine? Like, is it going to drop out when you hit these potholes? Because you can be the most careful driver. And then you see a pothole, especially on a road you're not accustomed to driving on. So like I'm going somewhere and the people who commute there, like the other day, Saturday morning, I had to go down to University of Michigan, Dearborn. So I took the Southfield Freeway, the M39, because that was the directions, right? I got off at Ford Road and Ford Road going west. And then I'm supposed to take the ramp to Evergreen, right? Unknown to me, in the extreme right lane that I'm supposed to use the ramp to enter the ramp has a pothole like a glacier. Now, the people who travel that road all the time know that. But I, who don't travel that road, don't know that. Guess whose car fell into that pothole? I missed one, but I didn't miss the other. I was fuming. I thought I had lost my car. At one point, I was like, oh my God, I don't have a car left. I literally thought my car was done. And I drive an SUV, y'all. So come on. The roads are horrible. The roads in Michigan are horrible. I'm going to tweet the governor. It's time to fix the damn roads. It's time to fix them. I was just so outdone. And then I got off, and now I'm on Evergreen to turn into the University of Michigan Dearborn. And the turn lane has a huge pothole. How on God's green earth is that supposed to be real? Tell me about that. How is that supposed to happen? You want to tell me? Tell me, how is that supposed to happen? So I can't begin to tell you how that was so annoying Saturday morning. No, they need to fix the damn roads around here. The roads need to be fixed. They are horrible, and it's shameful. We pay for a state that pays the highest insurance rates, for a state that we have the highest car repair rates anywhere. It's time to fix the damn roads. And I swear to you, if I ever drop into a pothole and I have to take my car in for a front end alignment, they're going to pay, the state is going to pay for it. I'm going to take a picture and I'm going to tweet them, and I'm like, expect my bill. You're going to pay for this crap, because it is ridiculous. I don't see why we should be driving on roads, paying taxes. The gas tax is high. So that's another thing in Michigan. We pay more for gas, right? So you go down south and it might be $1.99. Up here it's $2.99. Currently the price of gas ranges between $2.40 and $2.60. So it's inching up. So as we go into the summer season, it's going to get back up to $3 a gallon. You see where I'm coming from? So we pay more for gas, and then we pay the highest insurance rates in the United States. And then they won't fix the damn roads. Are you kidding me? I'm so done with that. I'm done with that. Anybody else done with that? If you live in Michigan, say hey and wave your hand at me, because this has just got to go. This is just too much. There has to be a process. There has to be a process. Process is everything. There has to be a process, right? And so so if you live in Michigan, I want you to go tweet Governor Gretchen Whitmer, right? And tell her, fix the damn roads. We need a plan, we need a process, and we need implementation right now. Because I almost lost my front end on Saturday morning, going into a regular commute. I'm pretty sure that's a commute that Ford Road east to west is a road that a lot of people from the western suburbs take to go into Detroit. And I'm pretty sure it's a very busy road from what I know. And it has two major colleges there. There's Henry Ford College, and then there's University of Michigan Dearborn. So far be it from me to understand why these roads can't be fixed. You know, we need to start holding our elected representatives more accountable to what they promised. Let public pressure be applied so they know that what you promised cannot take a back seat. Whatever heat you have to take from legislators, you have to bring it, because that's what you promised. Otherwise, we would have stuck with the other guy, right? But you said you were going to fix the damn roads. For God's sake, fix the damn roads. Fix them, for God's sake. All over Metro Detroit, anywhere you're driving. You're dropping in a pothole, trying to escape a pothole. Sometimes people are driving into stuff. I'm so down. What are you saying here? They claim they need 1.6 billion to do it. Yeah, like, can you and I, we pay, how much is your tag? How much is your tag, right? So I pay, my tag is expensive. My tag is not cheap on my car. And they told us years ago that the reason they were increasing the prices on these products was they were trying to raise money, right? I don't care where they're going to find this $1.6 billion. They gave a Nestle plant. Nestle pays $200 a year to bottle water at Cleary in Michigan. If they can do that, they can fix the damn roads. I don't care where they find the $1.6 billion from. They collect enough in taxes. Have you been to Secretary of State lately? Here in Michigan, the Department of Motor Vehicles is called Secretary of State. Don't ask me why. It's one of those weird Midwestern Michigan things, right? Because when I first came here and I heard Secretary of State, I'm like, as far as I know, the Secretary of State doesn't have an office in Michigan, but okay. They asked the government, they got on hold. Yeah. Why are they asking the federal government for money? They got money over there in the state. They don't need federal money. They have money. They collected so much money. The general fund has the money. They have excess money. They need to take the money and go fix the damn roads and not play around. And whatever heat that the governor needs to take in the legislature, she needs to take it because this needs to be done. I mean, drive down. You heard my story, right? That I was driving down Ford Road to take the Evergreen ramp. Dude, I fell into the pothole. I literally went, oh my God, my car is gone. I thought my car was gone. And then to turn into U of M Dearborn off Evergreen, the turn lane is a pothole, has a pothole in it. That's ridiculous. And I'm like, Michigan doesn't care about their reputation. They don't care about their appearance or their aesthetic. What's going on here? Right? Michigan, meaning the University of Michigan. I don't understand that, right? I don't understand that at all. Dr. James Simpson. Dr. James, I need you to go to Governor Whitmer's page on Facebook and tell her, use the hashtag fix the damn roads. Okay? We need to get these roads fixed. The roads are too bad all over Detroit. I am told that, I haven't seen this one, but I'm told that in Hamtramck, the service drive off Woodward, I think it's when you're coming down the Lodge or Woodward runs through Hamtramck, but I'm told the service drive all in Hamtramck, off of 75 and off of the Lodge, I'm told the potholes are like craters. Hello. Fix the damn roads all over Metro Detroit. Have you been to 12 Mile and Farmington lately? Same thing. Let me see. 10 Mile Road in Southfield, between Southfield and Evergreen. 10 Mile Road between Evergreen and Southfield. Oh, is that still bad? I thought they had fixed that. Are you kidding me? That's still bad. I remember I had stopped driving on it because it was bad. So I can't believe that it's still bad. Oh, I had stopped using 10 Mile for a long time because after I had found that between Evergreen and Lasser, from Evergreen onwards, it's smooth until you get to Telegraph. Then it starts getting a little iffy. Then 10 Mile between Telegraph and Middlebelt, don't drive there. It's just bad. So I had stopped driving. There's some roads I don't do anymore. Like if you're taking 12 Mile to go to 12 Oaks Mall, and let's say you're going from Northwestern Highway. So there's that little spot between Northwestern Highway and Inkster that's pretty good, right? And then between Inkster and Middlebelt. And then after that, it has areas where don't even try. But then, miraculously, after you pass over Halstead, before you get to Halstead, it starts getting really smooth to continue out there, right? And then you go on Beck Road and you see some stuff and it gets better, like in Wixom and so on in Commerce Township, the roads are pretty smooth. I haven't seen any potholes in those areas, but down where they think that there's a larger concentration of minorities or where there's a larger concentration of liberals or people who would not likely vote Republican, that's where the roads are really bad. And this is where you put your mouth where your money is, because you know me already. I will say it, but I need you guys to back me up because you don't want it to say it's a crazy lady with the braids who is making a lot of noise. I need you all to back me up. So you're going to do that. You're going to help me because I'm going to tweet her and I'm going to say it's time to fix the damn roads. I'm tired of it. Before I came on air, I went to my mechanic and I'm like, geez, I just want you to check because those cities, their taxes help keep the road smooth. We pay taxes down here too, honey. What are you talking about? Right? It's not that their taxes help to keep the road smooth. You know what it is? It's not about taxes. You know what it is? Accountability. The folks in those cities hold their elected leaders accountable. You know what we do? Man, it's bad. Yeah, I see what you mean, but you will never pick up the phone to call or tweet or Facebook. That's the difference. Let me tell you how I know this. Years ago, quick story. Years ago, when the Flint water crisis had just begun, you remember that? A guy running for representative here, Dr. Anil Kumar, was having a town hall meeting in Waterford, and he invited me. He said, I'd like you to come and say something, right? Now, this is me. I go wherever they say come, right? So when I went, I was one of the few colored persons in the room. Everybody was from Waterford. So we were introduced, there were like about 50 people in the room. So when Dr. Kumari, when he introduced me, people were like, wait. And they took, I mean, you got to understand this. Everybody in the room, they came around me and they said, listen to me. The reason that this happened in Flint is because you guys are not holding them to their word. You got to agitate. They were older citizens, because it's mostly seniors who do this, because young people too busy, they're not engaged in the process, right? And they said to me, they said, the day we stop agitating is when it could happen in Waterford. Don't get it twisted. One older man said it to me. He said, lady, don't get it twisted. He said, don't get it twisted. It's not because of color. This happened because we hold them accountable and we will not let them get away with it. And if you guys continue, he said, a lot of the stuff that's happening to you guys is because you're just sitting there and taking it. You're not standing up and talking. And Dr. Kumar and I were looking at each other like, not her. She opens her mouth a lot. And they're like, well, go back to your community and tell them to start talking. And this was me. I wish I could get some support. Do you want to come with me? I can start a group. I can start a focus group. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's not about taxes. That's what they want you to feel. No, it's because the folks in Livonia, in Northville, Novi, right? Do I need to go on? They hold their elected representatives what? Accountable. Are there black folks who live there? Yeah, but black folks are too afraid to say anything. So they leave it up to the white folks. They just kind of let me drive into my house, go into my garage, and they just like, I'm here, but I'm not really here. I'm just here. I'm just here. I just live here. I sleep here. That's how black folks act when they live in those communities. They're not vocal. They don't stand out. They don't say anything. Stand up and be heard. Snyder had the money but held the money for something else. Yeah, well, that's a whole lot of stuff. Don't get me started with Flint, because dude, Flint was a disaster and still is. Did you know that? But here, the only good thing that came out of it? Guess. Now they're testing water everywhere in the country. And guess what? We all are at risk everywhere in America. There is too much lead in the water. There is an acceptable level. And I sat in a commission about when the Flint water crisis started. I sat down with the head of the Oakland County Roadworks Commission. And when they broke it down and explained it, the rest of us in the room were like, just hang us over. Because it was like, are you seriously kidding me? Like, this is really going on. So because of that, they're testing water all over the country and are finding that what lead in water in America is at unacceptable levels that threaten human life, right? Especially with young children and children in the womb. So you're pregnant, whatever, you're carrying a baby, the baby comes out, start manifesting stuff, and people start wondering, and you're blaming vaccinations. It's in the water. It's in the water. But to get back to the point I'm making is that we as people of color suffer from what I call fear of authority. We fear white authority. And what we don't recognize is that times have changed. The narrative now is about holding people accountable. The narrative now is standing up and holding people accountable. When you start asking questions, they will answer. Sometimes they want you to say something because they want to improve the process. But white folks are not going to stand in line to defend something that ultimately does not benefit them. That's up to us. But we don't do that. We are afraid of authority. So we live in these communities and we creep into our garages, shut the garage door down, come out. You make sure you cut your lawn just so. You make sure you don't do anything. Your kids don't play outside. You don't do anything. And when you do go to engage, you go to engage with a chip on your shoulder like, I know you don't really like me here, and I really don't, I know you don't like me, but you have to put up with me. Time out. What the heck? This is our country. Everybody who lives here, say our country. This is our country. You're paying taxes here, right? It becomes yours, right? Okay. So time out for that. So what we don't do, we don't agitate. Like I'm talking about this. How many people are going to, if I were white and you were white, By the time this conversation is done, governor would get 100 emails right now to tell her fix the damn roads. She would respond. Matter of fact, she gets one, she talks about it. 2, 10, it's over. Because that's how elected representatives think. If they, from one person represents 10 voices, 10 voices represent 1,000. They think they have an epidemic on their hands. But we're never going to, because we fear authority. We think they're going to lock us up or put us in a reservation or put us in a. No, they're not. They're not. You know why they're not? Anarchy. Plus, they need your money. They need you to go buy stuff to keep the economy and the engine rolling. So they're not going to lock you up. They're not going to put stuff and put you in a reservation. No, because they want to keep the engine rolling, and the engine rolls when there is money. So they'd rather keep you happy, which is what entertainment is about. So you spend money as opposed to making sure that you do. But we don't think that way. We suffer from this fear. You go into somewhere and you're going to tone it down because you don't want to be the angry black man and you don't want to be the angry black woman. As for me, all day, every day, I sit down and cross my legs. Like, what? You don't want me to start saying, excuse me, where's the manager? That's usually when my kids leave the room because they're like, it's about to go on. Mom is about to go at it. So I want everybody who lives in Michigan, under the sound of my voice, I want you to go and tweet the governor and say, Governor, we love you, but it's time to fix the damn roads. Okay? My front end is enough. Enough. I mean, I literally went to the mechanic this morning. I'm like, I dropped into a pothole Saturday morning. I don't know if I have a car. Poor guy. He was like, okay, let's see. Your tires look good. I'm like, yeah, but it's still, it still feels funny. Maybe it's mind over matter. But the fact is, we shouldn't have to go through this. And I'm thinking about the people who commute every day, who have to drive into the University of Michigan, Dearborn, and take that route, Evergreen, into entering the university, from Evergreen North to enter into the university. And I'm like, no, Michigan Avenue is the same thing. Parts of Southfield Freeway, same thing. Parts of I-75 going into Monroe County, same thing. Parts of Telegraph. Come on, man. We need to fix the roads. Parts of Grand River. Even taking the lodge going downtown, the lodge is now smooth. They finally fixed it. But some of the service drives, the other day I got up at the wrong exit. Don't ask no questions. Don't ask. And it's one of those things, you're in a rush, and I got up at the wrong exit. Oh my God, coming off the lodge. I think it was Wyoming or something. The surface drive. I was like, dude, holding my wheel to avoid the stuff, right? The other day I was coming down 75 going downtown, and just before you get to 375, I think, and I got off at the wrong exit. This happens. I thought I knew where I was going. I wasn't comfortable with the exit, so I got off at 1 and ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, the potholes on this here service drive off I-75 going into downtown was horrible. Some parts of I-75, this is you. Wait just a minute. And then you take I-75 into Oakland County, and while the road might be smooth, but sometimes it's like, right? Especially when you start going near Auburn Hills. I mean, the road surface isn't clear. The stretch of I-75 is jacked up. I've never been up there. Really? That's a crying shame. Mackinac Bridge. That's a crying shame. I-75 near Mackinac. That's a crying shame. Fix the damn roads. Oh my God. It's been that way for a while. It's true. Absolutely. Thank you for your comments. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. This is WXD. Let me make sure I give you your correct. This is WKDM Jazz Detroit. Make sure you listen to them while you're driving, right? And I kid you not, it's really bad. I'm talking about the roads because somebody has to do something about it, right? The other part of the roads that are bad, you know which one is bad? The MA, the Davison. Anybody ever drive on it? First of all, I don't know why that road exists. I think it's a short cut between the Lodge and 75. I think that's how it was designed. That takes you from east to west. No one should drive on that road. If you get off at I-75 at 6 Mile, have fun. And if you get off at I-75, oh Jesus, at the Davison, oh God help you. Literally on the ramp, God help you. And then you get on. This is just how your car is going, like it's vibrating. Your car that you just paid, that you just use your tax money to pay a deposit on, and you're paying that grand $399 or $349 or $350 a month for your car note, and it's crazy. And then on top of that, you're paying insurance on that bad boy, plus the repairs that you didn't do to yourself. Right. Fix the damn roads, Governor. Fix the damn roads, right? In a couple of weeks, I'll be sitting down with her. I think it's sometime in April. We'll all be sitting with her at sometime, maybe next weekend. I don't know. It could be the 30th. But this is some of the stuff that I'm going to bring forth. So I need you to keep the momentum going so that when I say it, she wants to go, Harriet, I love your hair. No, Gov, I love you and all. But no, we got to fix the damn roads. These need to be done, right? Right. Absolutely. 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 Yep. It's messed up already. Oh, my God. Don't even talk. And then there's I-75. We have the craziest freeways here in Michigan. I-75 curves. Michigan, apparently, the topography is that we're a very hilly state. So I'm coming from Florida. In Florida, the roads are straight. No ups, no downs, nothing. The highest point is the New Smyrna drawbridge. I kid you not. When they pull the drawbridge up, that's the highest point. That's what we used to joke about, right? So all the freeways are straight. So driving in Florida is like a breeze. I mean, it explains why senior citizens love it down there, because it is what it is. Then I came to Michigan, and I'm like, how come a freeway curves? I couldn't get that. I couldn't get that. I could see driving through Tennessee and Kentucky, hilly mountain, and then I came to Michigan, and I'm like, this is supposed to be the motor state. How come the freeway is curved? 696 goes like this, meanders. My daughter is learning to drive, and she's like, oh. And I'm like, yeah, if this were in Florida, you just get on the freeway, you'll be done, right? Crazy stuff happens here. All the freeways here, the roads are in bad shape. And I get that what the DOT says, that because of our weather conditions and our geographic location, that we get a lot of salt, and the salt melts the blacktop and so on. They cut through neighborhoods. Okay, right, that's true, right? I get that the salt does stuff. It's the same thing in New York. In some parts of New York, the exit ramps to get onto the roadways and the highways. They don't call them freeways there. They call them highways. Those are a bit of a challenge. You know, Brooklyn, Bronx, and so on. Those roads like that. I get that. I get that. And then as it goes out. But the difference, again, is culture. It's thought processes. It's mindset. The folks in some communities hold their elected representatives to a higher ideal and hold them accountable, not just to promises made, but to the responsibilities and execution of their tasks. That's what we need to develop. That's what we need to say, because when you do that, you create a culture of accountability, where before they do something, they have to think about John Public and what's going to happen to those folks in that community. They won't make blanket policies that impact public policy that impacts people's lives without due process. Due process is the process by which they exercise consideration. They consult with community leaders and community members to see the likely impacts of this kind of legislation. And we need to get to the stage where we start. We need to develop that. You know, don't just sit there. We need to say something. See something. Say something, right? Don't just sit there and just let these things pass. We need to fix the damn roads, right? So today I wanted to talk a little bit too about R. Kelly. And for most of you, you probably have heard me talk about he should pay for what he has done to these young girls whom he had sex with while they were minors, right? And I began to listen. You know, my grandmother used to say there are three sides to every story: my side, your side, and the truth. And whilst what he has done is egregious and it's how he has broken the law, check this out. I listened to the Gayle King interview with the parents, right? And the parents of the two girls who live with him, those two girls have been saying that their parents were enablers, their parents were seeking money from R. Kelly, and we were like, really? No. Well, turns out the girls were right. The parents were seeking money from R. Kelly. They knew that he had been, how shall I say, accused, right? And yet you still take your daughter backstage and tell a man who is a sexual predator that your daughter wants to tour with him. And you know how stuff happens, and you're like, oh, well, there'll be a chaperone on a tour. Sure. And the head of the tour, who is in charge of the tour? Him. Now, I've been in beauty pageants, and yes, we had chaperones, but the chaperones and the head of the people were usually female. So it wasn't like they were handing us over to predators or whatever, right? So do you see what I'm saying now? Do you see what I'm talking about? So the parents were complicit in handing their children over. So if anybody, I feel like they should let him go to Dubai and perform. He probably won't come back, because what's he coming back to face jail time for the rest of his life? He probably won't come back. But I feel like those parents are complicit. They basically pimped their kids out. You're right. They became pimps. When you listen to the interview, when Gayle King asked one of the parents what happened, you knew that she said, well, I tried to separate the artist from the accusation and he was acquitted. Really? You handed your kid over on a platter. And then the kids kept the text messages, screenshots of the text messages, where the parents expected R. Kelly to endorse business deals, sign for loans so that they can do businesses. You pimped your kids out. So now the rest of us are looking at it like, so who's going to jail here? From a moral point of view, who is wrong here? The parents and R. Kelly. So I have a 17-year-old who comes to me and she says she has a dream to model or whatever. And I take her to a known guy who this is what he does. But the rumors about him are that he has sex with them and that he does things to them. And I still take my daughter there. And I get him to sign with her. And I get him because I want his company. And I want his money. So I am going to turn a blind eye and ignore it, knowing that the possibility exists that he might violate my daughter's sanctity. But I'm still doing it. Who is the pimp? Me or the guy? Me. I just gave my daughter over on a silver platter. And that was the basis of R. Kelly's argument. He didn't take anything from anybody. The parents handed their kid over. Yes, he's wrong. The law says you can't have sex with people under 16. It's a felony. He's wrong. But the parents are morally, unequivocally wrong. Do you see what I'm saying? And this is a message for all of us who have children. When you take your child to the coach or to whomever, and you feel like you're just going to leave your child there in exchange for goods and service, or in exchange for a favor, or in exchange for whatever, I think we need to keep that in mind. Somebody's making a comment. A famous singer's parents here from Detroit, won't say her name, basically did the same thing to her. Wow. I'm not surprised. People are hungry for opportunity, and they will pimp their kid out and give their kid over to somebody, to something, to some entity, knowing that what goes on there is nefarious and it's likely not a good thing. People do this stuff all the time. You see what? I'm surprised Dr. James isn't saying anything. Dr. James Simpson, why are you so quiet? You were doing security on those tours in the 90s. I bet people do this. I say this all the time. Hollywood actually does tell us what they do. You know, all these young people you see getting roles in Hollywood, you think they just got roles because they're super talented? They're not telling the real story. Some of those young children are told to go be nice to Mr. Johnny in the room, or whatever Mr. Johnny wants to do. That's what happens. You know this young kid, Macaulay Culkin, who was in Home Alone 3? You do realize that he was one of the kids who was at Neverland Ranch with Michael Jackson. He just got more famous than the rest of them. He has never said anything or said anything. Well, he's famous now. What does that tell you? That people hand their kids over when it's convenient for them. Does it matter if the child is white or black? No, the fact that you did it is enough, right? The fact that you did it is enough. So if we're going to hold anyone to a high moral standard, those parents are derelict in their duty as parents, right? Because they contributed to it. WDKM Detroit is speaking, and Dr. Simpson says people are money hungry. People are worse than money hungry. They will do anything for money and fame. Money and fame are the biggest motivators. All these young girls you see twerking online and putting up naked pictures or half naked pictures of themselves, what they're doing is they're seeking fame and money, because that is everything, right? They want to be famous. They want to be called an influencer. And they feel like if they do it, then somebody's going to see their picture, take note of them, and give them a modeling contract. That's what it is. There's one girl, yeah, you're right. It happens in every field, right? There's one girl who accused Colin Kaepernick of, let me make sure I get the calls, WKDM Jazz Detroit Radio. And you say laugh out loud. WKDM Jazz Detroit Radio. Dr. Simpson, put this up on your page. WKDM Jazz Radio Detroit. Everybody go listen to them, right? They play some really cool stuff. I'm going to start streaming them while I'm driving. Oh, no, 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 no. You know what I mean? Right? But it's true. We need to, and I know you talk about this on your show. You talk about this all the time. But we need to figure out what on earth are we doing with our kids? Why are we pimping our kids out? Why are we, the app is free. Okay? So WKDM Jazz Detroit, download the app. Someday soon you'll hear me on it. He and I are going to talk some little bit. Okay, you got it. Dr. Simpson says he got it. So it's an app. Download it, whether you have an Android or iPhone. WKDM Jazz Detroit. Download it and listen to it, right? So we're talking about how people are pimping their kids out in an age of human trafficking, right? Google Play Store and App Store, of course, right? In an age of human trafficking, we're talking about people. So what you saw played out was trafficking right there in front of you. And the rest of us were like, I can't believe she actually did that. Yes, both parents. And the father had the nerve to say, well, my daughter comes from a two-family home. Dude, you picked your daughter out. Two-family, two-parent home. You still did the same thing. What does it matter how many parents are in the home? If you're pimping your child out, you pimp your kid out. Come on. You know, so is he wrong? Yeah, because he was the one who had sex with a 16-year-old, right? But morally, the parents are just as bad, and they do this all the time. Say all the time, right? All the time. I kid you not. These things just happen over and over, and it brings me to this story. Well, you know, we're having a measles outbreak here in Detroit, right? In Metro Detroit. When I say Detroit, please understand, when I say Detroit, I'm talking about Southeast Michigan. As far as I'm concerned, Detroit is everywhere, right? So when I say Detroit, I'm talking about southwest of Lansing, southeast of Lansing. Are we good? Right. So all the communities southeast of Lansing, from Brighton all the way down, this is all Detroit to me, right? Because we're all headed down to the river. And I read a story yesterday. I was talking to someone, and she brought it to my attention that there has been a measles outbreak. I kind of saw the story trending, and I was like, some anti-vaxxer probably just trying to get, some attention. Well, it turns out 8 recorded incidents of measles outbreak in Oakland County. So she said, go on the website for the news app, for the news station, and see where the likely contact happened. And I was totally blown away. Did you guys see that? If you go to Channel 7 or WXYZ.com, you have their apps downloaded to your phone, you will see where these measles outbreak took place. One person traveling from Israel came in contact with a number of people here in the Metro Detroit area, because it extends as far south as Lincoln Park. So they were traveling around, right? And I'm like, I'm not saying anything more. I was just like, I'm done here, right? So where I grew up in the third world, where I grew up, we were given the mumps, rubella, and MMR. It's called MMR. The M there, one of them stands for yellow fever. right? So it's measles, mumps, and rubella. Rubella, I think, is the yellow fever component to it. So we were given these vaccinations from early, like when you were a kid. So when this whole measles outbreak started, I went into my children's records to make sure that their shots had been up to date. And my children are not young, right? They're 26 and 16. But I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss the boat, right? And to my understanding, they are updated, right? Then I remembered me when I came to this country in 2000, I had to be given a series of shots. Despite the fact that I had gotten them when I was a kid, I still had to get them over again, right? And I am saying somebody coming from Israel, y'all don't have a stopgap system to ask people coming from other parts of the world, hey, you all got your shots? Because we live in an age where everybody is everybody, and we're also individualistic, right? So if they, on the websites, I'm passing this out as a public service announcement, on the websites they have a list of dates and places where this person interacted with the public. Now, what is common about this? If you were in the vicinity, measles can exist in the air for 2 hours, up to 2 hours, and it is highly contagious at that point. So if the person was in Kroger, up to 2 hours after that, guess what? Up to 2 hours after that, that thing is still live. Lord, have mercy, Jesus. And I was just like, okay, so 8 cases, it's likely to be more than 8 because it spreads by air, right? I cannot begin to tell you. It's time. If you haven't gotten shots, get your shots, right? I think one of my children is missing a meningitis shot. That's another scary thing. You send your kid off to college and they contract meningitis, right? So make sure you get your shots, even us adults, right? Yuck. Why are you saying yuck? I know, right? But it is what it is. It's like you don't know how prone you are to some things until you get it. And frankly, I'm beginning to think that your exposure is determined a lot by never having any of these vaccinations in the first place. I think having had them is a deterrent. I kid you not. True story. When I came here, I was given the tuberculosis shot in 2000. Now, I had had tuberculosis shot when I was a kid. Apparently, I can't tolerate it. So it made me sick the first time. And in 2011, I got it again. And it made me sick. So now I have to have a certificate to say that I can't tolerate it because I have enough. They say I have enough of it in me. It's like I was so violently sick. I thought I was going to die. I ended up in the emergency room. So I guess that is, if you've ever gone to Africa, has anybody been to Africa? If you've ever gone to Africa, they give you a series of shots that you have to take. Don't ride a city bus. Right? You might have a point there. Take an Uber or a Lyft, right? But if you've ever gone to Africa, there are a series of shots that they give you that you must take within a certain time so that they can determine your culpability or your exposure limit to certain diseases that might be existent in the atmosphere, right? I've never been to Africa. So I know right away that if I plan on going to Africa, and I do plan on going to Nigeria, one of the things that I know I'm going to be, I know I'm going to have an issue with tuberculosis. You see where I'm coming from? And there's another one there that is common called a monkey fever that makes people violently sick. It even sends some people into the hospital by the time they come back. So there are some things, some places that I don't know that I have the tolerance for because my body just simply cannot sustain the diseases. And I think it's because we live over on this side of the world. You get used to the germs over here because it doesn't seem to be bothering the folks who live there that much. So it's because we live over here. You get used to the germs here that when you go into that environment, you're not comfortable or your exposure there cannot withstand what exists in that environment. You see where I'm coming from? So check yourselves, people. They're advocating now that we shouldn't eat out as much because of contact, because people are not washing their hands. You know what this all comes down to? Oi, what does it all come down to? Tell me. I know you're going to say it. Just keep you some bottled water always and some hand sanitizer. Add hand sanitizer to that. I love this guy WKDM Jazz Detroit. I love you. Right? Just make sure you have some hand sanitizer on you and wash your hands. Do you know that they say now, my doctor was advocating for me to get hepatitis A shot, right? And I was like, and she was like, "Do you eat out?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She said, "You should." Because what happens is people who, especially they found this was common amongst the population where men have sex with men, the population of people where men have sex with men, they are the most common carriers of hepatitis A, right? And what they're finding is that people don't wash their hands after using the bathroom. And I looked outside because I don't want to look in your faces when I said that, because I don't know why people are not washing their hands after using the bathroom. I have stopped using public restrooms because I'm beginning to start thinking about it. You know, when you flush it, there's no toilet seat to cover it. So everything is up in the air. So it's in your hair, your hands, your clothes, your purse. I've stopped using public restrooms. So if I know I'm going to the mall, I give myself 4 hours. I'm like, you have 4 hours, babe. Go do your thing and get out of there. And I am done. I'm serious. I go to restaurants. I am not using the public bathroom in a restaurant anymore to wash my hands prior to eating. I'm taking on more germs. So I keep hand sanitizer in my car, and I keep one in my purse. And if I'm wearing a coat, I have one in my coat. And I wash my hands if I have to go out to eat. And I'm also reducing where I go out to eat and so on. I've started to stop. I've started to stop going out to eat. It's just crazy because people are not as clean as they should be. And I'm saying that with all brevity, right? We need to confront this as a population, as a community, because we're causing the mass spread of diseases that are avoidable simply because people refuse to wash their hands. I'm in the bathroom and people walk right out of the stall, walk right out, and then they touch doors, they touch surfaces. This is why when I go to the mall on certain days at certain times in the mornings. I swear to God, I stopped going to the mall during the peak times when people are there. People sniffle, they blow. This morning I was watching somebody standing outside. I dropped my daughter off at Secretary of State, and I was watching someone stand out there, and she sneezed. Nice girl, look good, and all that kind of stuff. And you expect people to be decent, right? And you look at them, and she sneezed in her hand and then went back and touched her stuff. And I'm like, ew, she's going to touch the door. She's going to touch the kiosk. She's going to touch the surface of the stuff. Unbelievable. Let me see what you're saying over here. I don't even ever touch public railings or door handles. You and me both. You and me both. I find myself like, don't touch public railings and door handles. I use my shoulder to open doors because I'm getting tired and sick and tired of people not following basic hygiene. We won't wash our darn hands. And because we don't wash our hands, we've caused all these infectious diseases to pervade the atmosphere. It's our own fault. It's not the government's fault. It's our fault. We refuse to wash our hands. We sneeze into our hands, sneeze into your sleeve. That way, it's not going to be transmitted if I touch your hand or if I touch a surface that people are going to come in contact with. I kid you not. This past winter, man, if I had gotten sick, I got the flu in November, and that was it. And I said, no, we're not getting it again. I watched myself. My kids came home every day with something. I took vitamin C until I thought I was going to bleed vitamin C, right? Yeah, I use the hand sanitizers at wherever you go into stores and see them and you wipe the carts down. When you go to pump gas, do you all wear gloves? Well, in winter, I wear gloves, and then when I get back in the car, I put the hand sanitizer on my gloves. So my gloves are constantly ruined. But during summer, when I pump gas, I keep hand sanitizer in my car and rub it on. The hand sanitizer has alcohol, and then I hold the wheel, and then the leather on the wheel is falling apart because of the alcohol in the hand sanitizer that I use. People do not wash their hands. People sniffle, they wipe their noses, they sneeze, they go in the bathrooms, they hold their genitals, they wipe their butts, and they don't wash their hands. Come on, people. So now we have this whole inflow of infectious diseases that has come into our community all over the country simply because people don't wash their hands. Even flying on a plane, you realize you're breathing the same common air that everybody else is breathing. Man, I'm telling you, the next time I fly, I'm upgrading to first class. I'm done with that stuff because people don't wash their hands. They don't brush their teeth, right? We don't. I don't know what's wrong with us. We live in America where you can buy this stuff at the dollar store for $1. Oh, very few gas stations have plastic gloved stuff. That's a good idea. I'm going to start keeping that in my car. That's an excellent idea. Keep plastic gloves in your car so when you go to pump gas, you use it. That's an excellent idea, right? I kid you not. You're breathing the same common air. That's why be careful, right? You go to public spaces where you have to interact with the public, and you are like, okay, it's all. People don't brush their teeth. People won't, make sure they don't have bad breath. People don't drink water to minimize that. We don't flush our systems out. We got to drink water. Water is kind of cleansing. Water is not a bad thing. Yes, it makes you pee, but that's a good sign because it tells you it's activating your kidneys to flush. We got to do that. We got to do that, right? People won't drink water. People won't, we won't engage in common basic hygiene habits. What has happened to us? What has happened? And now we're getting all this stuff around us. It's for the good of all, right? It's for the good of all. Wow. It's for the good of all. Y'all made me go on and on about the stuff I really wanted to talk about. Something else, right? But we need to pay attention. We really need to. I feel like it's not just me saying it. I'm probably saying it should be a law. The Ministry of Men's at Church, I swear. My friend from WKDM Jazz Detroit is saying that it should be a law to handle Altoids at church, and everybody said, "Amen, amen." The Ministry of Men's, we should do that. We should do that. Brush our teeth, floss. Make sure you drink a lot of water, right? And for those of us like myself who eat mostly vegetables and so on, chances are, right? Chances are you find that you smell different because you're eating mostly organic stuff because you're not taking all the chemicals in, right? And you're really just trying to prolong life. And as I talk about that, can I ask you all to say a prayer for my friend Elaine Flowers? She's my partner with the Exodus Foundation. Elaine lost her sister unexpectedly on Saturday morning. I'm still blown away. When she called me yesterday, I'm still asking her which sister because it couldn't be true because she talks about her sister every day. When she's not talking to me, she's talking to her sister. To just say a prayer. As you know, Elaine lost her daughter-in-law back in October, so it's still kind of close. And for some reason, I think God is trying to tell me something, right? I think God is trying to tell me something. I think God is trying to get me used to the idea of people dying so that I get used to it, because when people die, it affects me badly. I think he's getting me used to it. So send your prayers out for Elaine and her entire family as they contemplate laying her to rest in a couple of days, probably within the next week in Port Huron. They're from Port Huron. So yeah, yikes, stuff happens, right? So, we gotta get it together. So would you do that? I need a couple of things. My call to action. Dr. Simpson and I, we're gonna tweet the governor of Michigan and say, fix the damn roads, right? She did ask for that the other day. Take a picture of the road that is bad so they can take a look at it. Fix the damn roads. But you're driving. Who has time to take a camera out and go take a picture? They'll kill you off, right? So tweet that we need to fix the roads. And we need to make even, you can't say this to anybody, but the people whom you have control over, tell them to use hand sanitizers a lot. Wipe your hands, use hand sanitizers and so on, because people are simply just not washing their hands, especially when we go out to eat. And we're approaching spring and summer here in Michigan when we go outdoors like crazy. Who doesn't want to be outdoors? We have such a short period of time to be outdoors anyway. Who doesn't want that? So I don't want to be cooked up in the house every day. Which brings me to another thing. I read recently where, you know how you buy rotisserie chicken? Don't buy it anymore. They say it has too much bacteria. And they put something in the chicken to plump it up. too many steroids and too much bacteria. So don't do rotisserie chicken anymore, right? Right. So today I want to talk about walk into your place and never do. Okay. I used to, and then last October I bought one from Sam's Club and took it home and it was pink on the inside. And I like my foods cooked, except vegetables, right? And then when I put it in the oven for 45 minutes later, it still wasn't cooked. It was still pink, so we couldn't eat it. I threw it out. We still couldn't eat it. I felt like, what a waste. Couldn't eat it because the meat was still pink. So I'm like, did they just put it through the oven for 15 minutes and call it cooked and stuff on it so it looks like it's cooked? It still wasn't cooked. So to me, it was already contaminated with salmonella because you took it out of the oven, gave it to me on the way home from the store. Some time had passed. To me, the likelihood of bacteria staying in it was just too much. So I didn't go there with that, right? Too much stuff. Say too much sauce, too much sauce. So today I want to talk about walk into your place. And this past Friday, we talked about taking your place. And I talked about it within the context of who are you, knowing who you are, and standing up for yourself in your place, in your space, right? So today I want to talk about walk into your place. And it's from the series where we're motivating folks to get up, stand up, and do what you've been called to do. One of the things I have found is that as a person, thanks WKDM Jazz Detroit, dude, you rock. Thank you. I'm humbled by your participation today. And one of the things I have found is that as we matriculate towards our destiny, there will always be obstacles. Remember, we talked about the 3 O's: opposition, obstacles. We should look into that because those are opportunities. So as we matriculate to our destiny, one of the things you're going to find is that there will always be people who will hurt you. There are people who stand against you. There are people who push against you. And then there are the gatekeepers who rob you of occupying your place. But sometimes you just got to walk into it, right? Because here's the thing. They're never going to hand it to you and say, welcome, come here, this is for you. It doesn't work like that. We were talking about privilege, and my children and I, we have these discussions in our home, and we were talking about privilege. And I saw a story on this past Friday evening on the New York Times. And in it, the writer was saying that at elite schools, children from low income settings, those children, are you ready for this? Those children have to clean the bathrooms as part of the program of admission. So the children need to get into college. In order to get into college, in public schools, in public colleges, there's a program called the TRIO program. The TRIO program evolved out of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, right? And out of that program, colleges are required to make sure that admission to their schools is a level playing field. Well, one of the program is funded by the federal government. Part of the program is to provide a way for the kids to get into the program. So it gives them jobs on campus. So in most public colleges, they give them jobs. Like they give them jobs like to work in the cafeteria, janitorial services, where, that kind of stuff. At elite colleges, the jobs that students in the from low income settings are getting into these colleges, the jobs they're getting are primarily to clean the bathrooms of their elite classmates. Did you hear me? So you're going to sit in a classroom with somebody whose vomit you just cleaned up, or whose toilet you had to flush, and whose tampon you just removed off the floor, and whose dirty condom was on the floor. And the person who was writing it presented it as within the viewpoint, within the perspective of that is kind of making low-income people feel really bad about themselves already, so that they're reminded of what class they're in. You know what my take on that is? Take your darn place. Why are you applying to an elite college in the first place? For what? What purpose does it serve? A 4-year degree in America has to fit into the Department of Education's curriculum. Am I correct in saying that? So a 4-year degree is a 4-year degree. Why are you worrying about going to Harvard to get a 4-year degree or getting a law degree when you can get a law degree from Wayne State? Hello. So you stretch yourself out, right? and you put yourself in a place where people, right, are already entrenched in these class systems, right? And they're looking at you because they know you don't belong, because you don't have the social capital. The social capital are your social skills, how to navigate these settings, right? So this is why you see people from other ethnicities trying to be like other people, because they're trying to navigate these difficult environments. My thing is, what are you trying to prove? Who is your validation? Take your darned place and stand in your place. You walk into your place. What's your place? What's your place? Is your place me going to an elite college for what? Now, when you leave there and you go apply for a job and you put Harvard on there, you think it's going to give you leaps and bounds ahead of the next person. Unless you're applying down in rural Kentucky. But they're just going to look at you like, okay, right? Because if the places where you're applying, if you think that going to that college and putting it on your resume means when you go to apply for somewhere on Wall Street, for instance, because the other person reviewing your resume might have gone to Harvard, that they're going to get you in, think again. They get you in based on your class and your color. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. People are very herdish by nature. So people are going to stick to their herd, right? And so many of these young people are trying to get ahead. Sometimes they're first generation college students. They're trying to get ahead. They're trying to advance. They're trying to do great things. But my thing is, if you have a calling to be a doctor or a lawyer, Harvard is not the only place that validates you. Yale is not the only place that validates you. Princeton is not the only place that validates you. You know where validates you? You validate yourself. Get yourself up, go to a 4-year degree, go study medicine. At the end of the day, you're going to practice with doctors from all over the world who did not go to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford, or anywhere else. Do you see what I'm saying? Why put yourself out? Why put yourself out? It's like you live in Detroit, so you're going to send your kids to Farmington Hills School District or some other school district, and your kid gets picked on because he does not belong in that social group. Do you think that that education helped him? I have news for you. There's a guy named Chris Rock. His mother used to put him on the school bus to go to a whole other school district. He said they were made fun of. They were picked on when the school bus arrived by the other students, and it affected him emotionally and mentally. I have never read stories that give positive feedback on people who push their kids to be in a different social group than the one they were born into. Am I saying that you shouldn't ascribe to it? No, I'm not saying that. I am saying work your way into it. Go to college, go get your degree, and then you work your way into it. That's the best way to do that, right? So when you walk into your place, what is your place? I think in a lot of cases, people lack identity. And people think that I am coming from such a bad background where everybody went to jail. You beat up on yourself. The society does a good job of beating up on people. So you feel like if you're Black or Hispanic and everyone around you was, wasn't rich, so you feel bad about yourself. So you feel like if you go to these places, it's going to give you an edge up in the world. You're not looking at it from the broad spectrum. You're looking at it only from these eyes, narrow views. And those narrow views inevitably are the bastion of people who come from the upper echelon, people who feel like they're better because they have more money, people who feel like they're better than you because they're 3 generations rich or 4 generations rich. So my thing is, if I don't have the financial capacity, I'm not going there, because you ain't going to make me feel bad. You can't make me feel bad about myself. So I'm not putting myself to compete in an environment where I have no skills to compete. What do? Stay in your lane. Walking into your place is staying in your lane. So you have to figure out what's your lane. That's the first thing you need to figure out. You have to identify who you are. And you have to examine yourself to figure out what your skill sets are. Many of us are standing over here looking at that person over there wanting to do what they want to do. You want to bet my guy WKDM Jazz Detroit has a story to tell how he got started? You want to bet. How many people probably trying to become him or be like him? just so that they can say so, right? And they sit back, and we do this as people, and we sit back and look at others, and we look at what they have done, and we want to replicate it and duplicate it without due process. But what is your place? I can't begin to tell you when I write books. One of the things I don't do are book signings. I hate those. They don't. I don't like them, right? Because people come up to you, and the first thing that everybody wants to tell you is, "I want to write a book." Okay. Can you help me? No. Are you going to pay for it? No. Can't help you. Why do you want to write a book? What's your story? I can't begin to. I said, it's your story. Tell it. You're the best voice of your story. Similarly, walking into your place, only you can occupy that space. But make no mistake about it. If you don't do the things you should do to get into your place, you're going to sit back and watch someone else flowing in that space. So it's time out for sitting on the fence. It's time out for, I want to be, but I've been working at this company for 20 years. The pay is good. The benefits are good. When are you going to get into your place? It's like a woman who is married, right? She's the wife, and then there's the side piece. Does she have any interaction with the side piece? No. What are you going to go to the side piece's house and talk to her or engage her? It's two different worlds. Walk in your place. Your place is the wife. Until she gets your place, you have nothing to talk about. So I wouldn't be engaging any side piece. Do you see what I mean? There's one thing I like about Donald Trump. You know what that is? Some people are afraid to step out on faith. That's a good point. One thing with Donald Trump stays in his lane. He understands he's the president, and he calls attention to that. I am the president. I do what I think I should do. He has that understanding. That's his place, right? A lot of us are not understanding our roles. We're not understanding what we're called to do. First of all, like I say, you can't get away from identifying who you are. And the process of identification is simple. What is it that you're good at? What is it that you do with your eyes closed? What is it that people are constantly asking you to do? That's a pretty good indicators of what you should be doing. But you have to walk and stay. You got to walk into it. They're not going to call you Dr. Joan if you don't go to school to study to be a doctor. They're not going to, it's not your place until you walk into it. You have to walk into it. Okay, so I'm going to use me as an example, right? Talk about stepping out on faith. That's some story right there, because all my life I've been public speaking. I've never not been in an environment where I wasn't speaking either to groups of people or through a microphone, bullhorn, whatever, right? So when I got called to be a speaker and an author, it kind of was different from what I wanted to do. But in a sense, I was so comfortable doing it because I'd always been doing it. So it didn't seem like it required a special calling because I had always been doing it. That's how I knew that was my place, because I had always been doing it, irrespective of whatever career path I had pursued, irrespective of what other things I had done. I was always doing this, right? So it became easier for me to walk into my place. So I'm not a producer or a director, right? I'm not a school principal. I'm not a police chief or mayor of the city. So I don't walk in those lanes. I stay in my lane, author, speaker, and talk show host. I stay in my lane. I do this and I stay in this lane. That's what I'm called to do. I talk, I encourage people, I empower people. I stay in my lane. I don't go and, write books about medicine. This is what I do, right? So I stay in my lane and I walk in it. There came a time when it's a process to walk into it. Yeah. So there's a process of identification. There's a process of discovery where you have to plan. And then there's a process of execution. So you have to set it up. So you have to identify it. Then you discover, then you execute, right? How do you do those things? Well, you have to have a plan. I like writing stuff. So get your project binder. I have mine, right? This is my show binder. Get your project binder. fill it up with loose leaves, and tab it Monday, January, February, March, April, May, June. 30 days in a month, 28 days in a month. You put how many loose leaves are in it, and you write out for each day what you're going to do for the next day. You get a planner. This is my planner. So when you see me on the street, don't try to check my planner, see if I have dates in it for stuff, right? So you get your planner and you write out what you're going to do for each day. You have to write the vision to make it plain. The Bible says, write the vision, make it plain on tablets. You know what our tablets are today? Paper. Our tablets are screens. So that they who see it can run with it. Who is they? You are. You have to write the vision out so you can see it. When you see it, you're accountable to it, you recognize it, and you start planning and executing it, because it won't leave you until you do something about it. Right? And understand that it changes and evolves because your vision has moving parts, because it engages people. And people are variables. So there are always moving parts to it. Right? So you write it out. And that's your part. So you identify who you are. Okay, this is who I am. You write it out. The discovery is, how am I going to do this? What factors do I need to have in place? Who needs to be here? Identify the people, the place, and the thing. People, place, and thing. Hey, people, place, and thing. Right? And then there comes the execution. You ask for an opportunity. You ask, you volunteer to get some sort of understanding. I didn't just set up a nonprofit. I volunteered at a nonprofit to understand how they work, to understand how do they execute and what are the components, who needs to be here, what kind of roles they play, how do they interact with the public, blah, blah, blah. I volunteered first. Before I even announced to the public that I was going to do this, I volunteered to get some idea of what it would take. When I realized I was going on radio, I didn't just get on radio. For years, I had been listening to the sound of my own voice. I started researching. What does it feel like to sit in the studio? What does it feel like to have all these equipment around? What do people do? How do you run a 1 hour program or 2 hour program? I did my research so that when it came time for execution, I was ready. Walk into the studio like boss, and they were like, you do this like a natural. Do you see what I'm saying? I walked into my place. That was my place. The day of my first broadcast on, what was it? 1460 Walled Lake, Detroit. That was the call symbol, right? The first Sunday that I did that, I literally walked in there like I was the boss. But you know what happened before the Sunday? I went in there a couple days in the week before to get a feel for it. What time should I arrive? I asked questions of the engineer. At what point do you do this? I sat behind the desk and put the microphones on to get a feel for what it felt like. By the time Sunday came for my first broadcast, I was ready. I was ready. I was in it. Felt natural. There is a process of preparation. And for most people, do you know what happens to some people? They arrive at their destiny in a hurried manner because they did not let the process prepare them, right? I never planned to do radio, but somehow WKDM Detroit says I never planned to do radio, but somehow it became something I was interested in. The feelings were already there, right? Sometimes walking into your destiny is a process of discovery. You realize this is something that I could do. I probably have something in my arsenal that I've done similar to. And you realize this was something that I could do long term. That's what he's referring to, right? He never planned on it because he couldn't see the feasibility and the feasibility of completing it, right? So here he is, but it was something he was interested in. And when he started doing it, it felt natural. You realize you have a knack for this stuff. That's why most of us, especially for us people of color, we confine ourselves to certain roles. And most people do. People of color everywhere. White people, black people, green people, all people. I guess we all have some color, or some of us have more color than others, right? Right? Because we're human beings. So it's the family of human faces, right? But most people, we confine ourselves to certain specific roles. And outside of those roles, we think life does not exist. This is why in a lot of cases, when you work for companies and they eliminate your job position, people go into a tailspin, because here in America, we allow our work and our occupation to define us. Our work and our occupation defines not just our way of life in terms of income, but it defines how we see ourselves. And this is why when people lose their jobs, from a jazz keyboard player to a radio station host, absolutely, right? But it was always there because you could do it. It was all in the same set of skill set, is what I call it, right? So most of us, we allow work to define who we are. So when you ask people who are they tell you they're an electrician or a plumber. I didn't ask you that. That's your occupation. Who are you? What could you do? What would you like to do? That's who you are. Do you see what I'm saying? So we don't do that process because sometimes we're afraid of the answer, and because we know there's an accountability to it. And sometimes we're like, it's not worth pursuing. I'm not going to make any money off it. Sometimes it's not about the money. Sometimes it's about the calling. It's that you have to be in the place that you're supposed to be in so that you can receive the benefits of being in that place. Let me tell you what happened to me. Remember, I told you that I was working full-time up until 2011, right? And I was embroiled in this job. I was invested in it. But at the same time, I had published my books and I had started my process of becoming a public speaker here. So I was using opportunities that came my way so that I could do it, right? You know what happened to me? What happened to me was when they finally eliminated my full-time position, and I was the boss, but the board of directors, right? Because they changed ownership. What if I had not had my destiny to look forward to? I would have been devastated. What if my perception of myself was based on my job title, and that's all I would ever be, and that's all I would ever be, and that's whom I was? I would have been devastated. Luckily, I had invested in myself and was working actively. I didn't want to lose my full-time job because it was helping me fund my activities. But it was time for a different calling. I had to walk into a different place. Truthfully, I spent more time on myself, right? And I developed myself. I developed my skills more. So I spent more time on Blog Talk Radio, attracted more of a wider audience. Before you knew it, my numbers started creeping up because I had become who I am supposed to be. I had to walk into my place. As long as I sat in that full-time job, I was never going to do it because I would tell myself, I can't afford to divest more time into it because I have to do this to maintain my standard of living. Do you know how much I wish I had been married by then? Oh my God, I wish I had had a spouse, I had had a second income, that I could have felt more comfortable. But that was not how the story was supposed to be told. I had to do it by myself, with God, by God, over God, God under me, God over me, God over my head, God behind me, God on either side. That's how I got over. I have to tell the story. Do you understand what I'm saying? When you walk into your place, you have to tell your story. If I don't tell you my story, how are you going to get up and be motivated to do what you've been called to do? I had to do it. I had no choice. I cried tears. It wasn't comfortable. I was alone, a single parent, found myself a single parent with 2 children, one of whom who was ready to go to college. She was graduating high school and ready to start college in the fall. And here I am without a full-time job. I had to walk it out. Today, she's this close to being a lawyer. She's almost done. Hallelujah. Yes, heck yes. Hallelujah to God, the angels, and the Holy Spirit, and Jesus, and everybody in heaven. But hallelujah to the people on earth who made it happen. Amen. Right? Because she had to walk into her place. My job was to be cheerleader, guide, protector, pusher, just being there, pushing her, and saying, yes, you can do it, even when all else failed. Sometimes we were walking on water. Sometimes there was no water. We don't know what this is. But we were believing that if we're called to do it, then there must be a provision. There must be a way to get it done. And I was determined to find that way. Sometimes walking into your place, get this, you have to be determined. Do you know what obstacles came against me? Do you know the kind of stuff that I had to walk through? I've told you over and over. You don't believe me? Read my book, Through the Fire. And that's why you're going to buy After the Fire, because you want to know, how did this turn out? Because it is never easy. Say it's never easy. Anybody who tells you it's easy is a liar. It's never easy. Even when you have all the money, you still have to find the right people. You still have to have the right place, and you still have to have the right time. It's never easy. Say it's never easy. Even when your father is Dan Gilbert, even when your parents have left you an inheritance, you still have other challenges because you have to walk it out. There are just some things that you have to walk it out, and walking into your place is that thing. There's some of us who stumble upon it. Some people have their parents' business, and they went to college and they're like, I'm never going to go to 7 Mile and Telegraph, or I'm never going to go live on 6 Mile or McNichols or whatever. And so you take all your skills and you go into the corporate world and you feel like you're a big shot. You're a big shot, right? Look at me. Some of you, your parents are lawyers. They have a little legal practice somewhere, but you're like, I'm too big for that. I'm going to work for Canfield and Miller, or Miller and Stone and Fields, right? Some of you, and you don't. And then the corporate world leaves you behind. And you have to get to this point of maturity where you realize, what if I take all the skills and the knowledge I gained and apply it to my parents' business and take it over? What would happen? You see all these mom and pop stores that are going out of business? You know what I have found? Most of them is that generation, right? And that generation is being affected by who? That generation is being affected because the now generation, they are not doing it. They're not interested in doing it. They don't want to. So that generation, they're like, the time is passing. Time is fading. I can't do this anymore. Why is no one helping me? The children don't want to invest in it. So they're done, right? And so what we find happening is that people simply lose interest, and then you miss your place. Sometimes for me, I have found that if you went to college, I don't care if you went to Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Stanford, or whatever, what I have found is that if you went there, get all the knowledge and the skills, come back and improve the place where you started. There's nothing wrong with it. God already knew your determination, and you know that's a very key point, right? I have said this over and over, right? There is a reason why God gave the Google boys the knowledge and the skill set to discover, to create Google, right? There is a reason why God gave it to Bill Gates. There's a reason why he gave it to Jeff Bezos. There's a reason why he gave it to Mark Zuckerberg. You know why? Because some of us have this gift in us and we sit back on it. But those people did not rest until they uncovered the earth to find out how they could bring their skills to marketable. This is why all people, as far as I'm concerned, are not created equal. We're given gifts and talents, but we don't have equal sets of determination. We're not equally determined, right? I had a dream, and God foreknew that no matter what, I was going to do it anyhow. It cost me everything. Cost me a marriage, cost me a relationship. It cost me everything. Do you hear what I'm saying? It cost me everything. Everything. I'm praying I'm healthy now, seriously, because all the stress, all the trauma, I pray that I'm healthy, right? So stretch your hand towards me and pray I'm healthy, like I pray for you, right? But it cost me everything to do it. You have to be determined. Sometimes when I look back over it, honestly, I ask myself questions like, did you do everything you could have? Was there an opportunity that I missed? Was there a step I missed? Mistakes? Did I miss a take here or there? So in the big picture, when I look at it, I said, well, what were the tools that you were given to work with? So I make a list of the tools that I was given to work with. Well, the tools and the resources, right? And what did you do with that? And then when I look at it, anytime I do that, this is when you see me walking like a boss because I'm convinced I did the best that I could with the tools and resources I was given. You see where I'm coming from? This is why I tell you, don't minimize yourself. Don't minimize yourself. Your capacity to create is resident in here. Use it. Einstein said we only use 10% of our brains. And I want to hug him because I'm like, then what would happen if I use another 10% or another 20%? What would happen? The mind is the greatest thing ever. Don't waste it. So when you come home, you have to create, you have to be disciplined. One of the things that I found out, you can't miss the D's. You talk about the double D's, your determination and your discipline. That's your double D, right? You can't miss it. You have to be determined and you have to be disciplined. My greatest achievements have come when I maintained my self-discipline, my discipline of doing my research, my discipline of making sure that I maintain my integrity. I have to do some research. I have to go after these people. That's when I win. Discipline. Sometimes, Dr. Simpson and my friends over here, sometimes what we fail to do is that we are not what? Disciplined. Seriously. We're not disciplined. No. We're not disciplined. We don't let it happen. We don't stay the course. We quit. Is it easy to quit? It's the easiest thing to do. If you could close your eyes and imagine and see me, someday maybe I make a film, I don't know, and see the challenges that I had to go through and see the stuff that I had to walk through, guess what? Shake your head. Shake your head. I would have quit too if it were me. I would have walked away. In fact, one day I said, enough, I'm done. Because you have to be disciplined and you have to be determined. So this is how it works. God gives you the plan at the beginning. He doesn't show you the process, but he shows you the end. There's a reason for that, because if you know the process, you wouldn't do it. But secondly, if you can keep the end goal in mind, it will motivate you to keep going, because that's what happened with me. I needed to keep that image in my mind so that I continued in spite of classism, racism, colorism, and every kind of ism that exists. And I had to keep going even when I wanted to quit. Quittism was one of the things, right? People made fun of me. They smirked, they laughed. I don't talk to those people now. They were never important in the first place. So why pay attention to them? Those are the naysayers, the negatives. Don't pay attention to them. They're not important. Are they going to be there at the destination? Hardly likely. In my film, in my mind that was running, the people who were at the destination were people I didn't even know. I never knew those faces that I saw in the dream. Some of them I haven't met yet, but that's good. So you know what that did for me? When people around me started acting out and flaking out and carrying on, I'm like, you're proving yourself. The process of attrition has hit. You're in my life for a season. Your season is over. Time for you to keep it moving. I gotta go. Do you see what I'm saying? So you have to learn to be strong. And unfortunately, we don't get a chance to do that a lot, right? We often, strength is a funny thing because strength can be frightening. Your fortitude, when people say you're so strong, you withstand so much, that can be frightening to some people, right? And your strength really is your ability to withstand crises and adversity. That's really what your strength is. Your ability to think under pressure, your ability to stand therefore in spite of everything else falling all around you. Like right now, you're looking at me and you wouldn't know anything is going on. I mean, I'm thinking of my friend Elaine, whose sister died, and I'm thinking of my family members who are hurting from my father's passing. But you wouldn't know anything is going on. I'm still carrying on, still dealing with everything else that is coming, still dealing with all kinds of stuff, right? That's your strength and your fortitude, right? Let those people go reside on the dark side of the moon. The people who come against you, the negatives and the naysayers. I learned to eliminate those people, right? It took strength of mind to be able to look at people and walk away. And while they're walking away, not run behind them and say, please, I beg you to stay. The minute they started acting out, I would smile. I would be like, okay, another one bites the dust. Let's keep it moving, right? But it takes knowing your place. You have to ask yourself, this is why you need a picture of the end game in your mind, because you have to ask yourself, how important is this activity, action, and this person to the end game? If they are not going to be a part of it, then they don't need to be here. Do you see what I'm saying? So when people start acting out, you're able to be calm, cool, and collected and say, well, they're not important or intrinsic to the end game, so they can go. Right? And we have to get to that stage, because that is the stage where greatness resides. You can't walk into your place if you don't know who you are. I've told you the story of Barack Obama, who said he didn't know that a part of his personality was enduring criticism. He didn't know he had that strength, right? And when he found it out while he was president. So he couldn't act out and go throwing stuff across the room. Angry black man in office. Yeah, this is whom you elected. But he found out that with all the criticisms from the Republicans who practiced racism, he was able to withstand it and still talk to them. Incredible. Now, me and you, this is me and you. Who? What you said? I'm the president. Get that clear in your head. Right? That's how you and I are going to react to that. And the people said, amen. Okay? So you have to know yourself and know who you are. You can't get to your destination and get to your destiny if you don't know who you are. That's why you have the process. And the process, having completed the process, now you can walk into your place. The process is teaching you how to walk in it. Some of you have been with men for years, and finally they say they're going to get married, and he's a cheater, wild, and everything else. And now you wondered why it took you years. You had to walk into this one. You had to learn this one, because guess what? You couldn't have married him because you would have been divorced, because you couldn't have handled the stuff that he would have meted out. But now you get used to it. You can walk into it. You even have a process for dealing with it, so you can walk into it. You wonder why it took you years to become vice president. You had to go through all those roles. Well, you needed the strength. You needed to know who you are. You needed to know the roles, because guess what? Are people going to cheat on you? Are people going to call you names? Heck yes. Are people going to act out crazy? Yeah. But you had to have the fortitude and the strength in you to know that beyond the shadow of a doubt, you're qualified for this and you can handle it. So that's why you went through all those tests, all those stuff that you went through. And now you're sitting in the vice president's office and some fool is coming to act out in front of you. And you're like, seriously? You know why you can just look at them now instead of get out of my office? You're fired. You know why? Because you've been tested. You have to go through the test. So now walk into your place. Walk in there like a boss. You know, I have this image of myself from I was growing up that wherever I went, I always wore heels, because to me, high heels made me feel taller. I'm tall. I'm 5'3", so I'm really tall. To me, I am tall. Okay. So wearing heels made me feel tall. So it made me walk into stuff. Right? So I have this image. If I kid you not, every battle that I ever fought, I fought it in heels. I kid you not. The day I got divorced, I walked into that courtroom in heels. My heels were on. Try 6'8". Oh, you're 6'8". Okay. Right? So imagine that. Imagine being 6'8". So I wear 6-inch heels. So when people see me and they're like, when I take my heels off, they're like, I didn't know you were so short. You know what they're really responding to? It's not my natural height. They're responding to their perception of who I am. that I seem so tall because I act as if I am capable of dealing with everything else. That's really what they're reacting to, your perception. So you realize that walking into your place, you have to create the right perception in people's minds. You can never show up unprepared. I don't show up unprepared because then that damages their perception of me. Years ago, I was asked to go to Wayne County, sections of Wayne County were dealing with some other stuff, and they asked me to come and speak. The woman who called me said, I followed you online and I followed your profile online. So I couldn't show, I guess she had to tell me that. I couldn't show up not knowing what I was going to talk about. The mistake I made was I took a friend of mine with me to help me with my stuff. She must have been drunk. She determined she was going to mess me up. She did. She totally messed me up. She became friendly with the people and she was going to invite them out for drink or so. And she's like, oh, Harry, that's how she does that. She didn't realize it. That was the end of the friendship. We're not going anywhere. We're going in separate directions. I'm going this way. You want to stay over here. That's fine. Sometimes the people around you will not acknowledge that you have outgrown them. You do know that, right? You do outgrow people. They were good for a time and a season. That season is over. Shut it down. Move on to the next. It's part of growth. It's part of being a leader. A good leader understands that and is not married to anyone. Did you know that? In the moment, while the person is in front of you, they're the most important person. But when their use expires and their season is over, as a leader, you've got to learn when to call it. And you got to let it go. Otherwise, they're going to be a disservice. You don't have time as a leader to pay attention to people's petty squabbles and nuisances. That's what happened to me and my friend. I don't have the time. And she was not going to sit back and say, oh, so you think you are it now. She wasn't ready for that. She was never going to be ready for that. So I had to leave her because she was an embarrassment. So I left her. It is what it is. I value the time that we spent together, but the time had come where that no longer mattered. That was for a season. It doesn't fit into this new season. Do you see where I'm coming from? You've got to know times and seasons. You need wisdom, you need discernment, but you need to have that feeling in here. Most leaders and good leaders rely a lot on their gut feeling. They can tell. And and they tap into that all the time. And the more they tap into that skill, the more they use it, is the better it becomes. And a leader knows when to call it, right? You can't just be wishy-washy about what you want done or what you plan to do. You have to know beyond the shadow of a doubt. I am sure beyond the shadow of a doubt, this is what I'm supposed to do, right? I'm sure of it. I've tried it. I've tried to quit it. I've tried to give it up. I've tried everything. I am sure this is what I'm supposed to do. So I make sure I line myself up and present myself so that I'm available to do it. That's my accountability to it, right? And that's what you have to do. I've run out of time. I've completely gone out of time. Completely gone out of time, right? So a couple of things to bear in mind. When you walk into your place, you got to know who you are. And you got to stay in your lane. Intertwined. Make sure you have the double D's, determination and discipline. Integral. You have to be disciplined. There's some behaviors that are not acceptable in that place. There are some behaviors that you need to leave behind. There are friends who, they don't need to walk with you. They're family members. Yeah, you may be related by blood, but that doesn't mean that they have to come with you. And you have to learn to listen. Thank you so much. I enjoyed the conversation too, right? You have to learn to listen to your inner you. Practice that skill. That's what guides you. It's the same skill that you're driving down the street and it says, no, don't turn down the street at this hour. Don't go down there. Tap into it. You're listening to someone talking. You're going to hire someone. And it's clear as day to you that you should not hire this person because a few years ago, some people were trying to come into my circle. True story. And while I'm very open right? I don't want to dismiss anyone or make anybody feel funny. I engaged with her, but somehow she didn't tell me everything about herself. So I kind of figured there was something she was hiding. One of the things that she didn't tell me about herself was that she had married someone younger than her and that he had just come out of jail. She had children, and this conversation came up because the children were acting out, especially her oldest child. Typically, when the oldest child, who is a female, is acting out, I usually ask if there's a male in the home who is either the child's natural parent or not. In this case, obviously, it wasn't the child's natural parent. So I said, I don't know you well enough to comment on that, but something is wrong there. And she said, well, I'm just going to send my daughter to live with my sister in Philadelphia. And I said, why are you going to uproot her from her friends and her family? And she said, because I just can't live with her now. I just got married. And I said, but what about the other children? She was a co-parent to the younger children. When you are not at home, who is going to be there to watch over them? And I left the conversation at that. Well, a couple of weeks later, she texted me and asked me if she could borrow some money from me. I don't need to know why you need to borrow it. I read the text, and I was sitting at my desk in my office, and I read the text, and immediately I knew. I said, these folks are lying to you, and they're going to give you a story. Give them the money. Don't ask for it back. So I texted her back, and I said, okay, come and pick it up at 1 o'clock. They got there before 1 o'clock, so it's a good thing I went and got the money first. When she came, she brought her husband to introduce him to me. She didn't tell me that her husband is someone who had just gotten out of jail. It was he who told me, because when he came, I couldn't believe what I was looking at. You could tell from his manner that he had not, the 5 years he had spent, he had not been rehabilitated. He was angry and he was cruel. And he said to me, she didn't tell you? And I said, no. And he looked at her and he said, it must be a reason why she didn't tell you. And he started explaining to me, then he apologized. I said, no, so I said, well, why did you go in? What happened? Tell me your story. And he told me what happened. So I said, well, now that that has happened to you, what are you going to do about it? You're out. I said, are you out? He said, yes, he's out on parole. So I said, oh, so now you know what not to do. I said, do you plan on going back in? And he said, no, ma'am, I don't. I said, no, we're friends, so you don't have to call me ma'am. Your wife is someone I know, right? And I'm like, your wife is a friend of mine. They're in my office. So I'm vulnerable, so I'm not going to say anything, right? And I said, but what do you plan to do with the rest of your life? And when I said that, and he said what he wanted to do, that's when you knew he was not going to stay married to her, right? And that was the first time she heard what his ultimate goal was to be. He wanted to be a missionary. He wanted to go to Costa Rica and be a missionary. That wasn't something that she thought she should do. And the truth be told, the minute they walked into my office, I looked at them and I knew right away these people were going to sell me a 6 for a 9. And they had lied to me and they were not to be trusted. So I smiled. When the conversation was over, I prayed with them, blessed them, gave them the money, and I said, you don't owe me anything. We're good. The minute she walked out, block and delete. Told security if they ever come back, don't let them in. Right? Because I recognized she was only thinking about herself and not her children's best interest. Absolutely. Because she lied and misrepresented the facts. You see what I'm saying? Those are people clearly. I mean, she's sitting in front of me. This person is not someone who should be around you. Can't be in your circle. This person cannot be your friend. This person does not belong here. You cannot take them anywhere with you. Get rid of them. Block and delete immediately. To this day. That was years ago now, right? Do you see what I'm saying? You have to learn to have that in you. Cultivate it. It's a necessary skill. Because the higher up you go, the more people are going to attach themselves to you. People see you, they want to be with you, they want to come into your circle, but they cannot handle the limelight, the light that is shining on you, right? They can't handle it. They don't have the behavior. They can't speak the way. When I say speak, they don't know how to interact with the people around you. That will cause a problem for you. So you have to become your manager and manage yourself. You are your best investment. People talking all day that I want to do this and I want to do that. I'm looking up, what are you doing? Are you investing in yourself? Are you protecting you? Are you doing everything you can to develop the skills that you're in? My daughter wanted to be a lawyer. That child, from she was born, I swear, from she was 6 years old, she told me she was going to be a lawyer. Remember I told you the story? How she downloaded the screensaver of Harvard Law School and she says, that's where I'm going to college and I'm going to be a lawyer at 6 years old and walk out the room, right? But there's one thing that you can't say she didn't invest in herself. She finished high school with honors. She went to college, graduated with honors, and she reads everything she could lay her hands on. She studied. Do you see what I'm saying, y'all? You have to invest in yourself. Are we investing in ourselves? Are we becoming the best versions of ourselves? Every time something happens, I'm like, is that the best version of you? Were you really being the best that you could be? And if I can't answer my own, icky, time out, Harriet, go retool, redevelop, you got to renovate that. Clean that up a bit. You see where I'm coming from? So certain behaviors and patterns have to go. Similarly, the people who cause those behaviors or who respond to those behaviors, they have to go too. Because this is all about you, right? My time is up. I got to go. You're going to shut me down, right? If this message has been a blessing to you, I want you to go to harrietkemick.com. Invite me to come speak at your next event, right? Just inbox us, send us an email from there. We'll get the email, respond to it. If you want to talk to us, 313-259-2800. I know you're all busy writing that down. If you want to talk to us or you want to invite us somewhere to speak, 313-259-2800. Remember, the ExodusFoundation.com is how we do what we do. That keeps us funded. Go to my website, the ExodusFoundation.com. Right on the homepage, it says contribute. Click on that, and it will enable you to make a donation to our cause. We help and provide services to victims of human sex trafficking. But for the grace of God, it could have been me. So every time you see my face, think human trafficking. Every time you hear of human trafficking, look at this face. Remember me? It could have been me. I am here by the grace of God. So help us as we continue to help others. We provide all kinds of stuff. That's why I miss Elaine's sister, because when we set up the shelter, she helped us to buy towels. She helped us to buy towels and sheets, gave money and all kinds of stuff. So go to the ExodusFoundation.com. Pray for Elaine. Go to the ExodusFoundation.com and be a blessing to us, so that we can continue to be a blessing to others. Thank you so much. I'll be back tomorrow. So what are you going to do? You're going to stay focused. You're going to stay in the game, right? Stay in your lane, right? Be blessed, everybody. Thank you so much. Facebook, how you guys doing? You doing okay? All right. It's always nice to see you guys. Thank you so much. I hope this message has blessed you as much as it has blessed me. Thank you so much, everybody. Be blessed. There you go, Facebook. There you go. Nice. There we go. We're done.